Scott McKenzie, supply chain guru here. So what we're here to talk about today is the problem of having too many projects. And one of the challenges that I think we all have is when I'm looking at all these different types of projects that I need to work on is really where do I start? And what I'm looking to solve as a part of that is how do I not waste my time with projects that really don't have any value to them, or I'm looking for the highest value project. I might have several projects, but several of them have value, but I just don't know what they look like. So at some point, when I'm working on a project for my company, I have to go provide some kind of a justification for why am I engaged in even investigating this project. And what I've done in the past is I've gone all the way down and gotten to the end of the road, done all the investigation, spent a bunch of time, and I couldn't answer some simple questions that my leadership had for me at the end of those projects. So what I've learned to do is to get those questions that I know my leadership is going to have answered at the start of the process rather than the end of the process. So let's talk about that. So what are those questions? So most companies' leaderships are going to have the following really two simple questions that you need to be able to answer. Number one is, what are our specific challenges, right? What are those 2 to 4 things that we're working to solve right now, and why? Why are they important, and why do we need to solve these problems right now? What's the driving factor that is really pushing these problems to come to the forefront? Number two is, what are these problems costing us, right? Do you have a feeling, or do you actually have hard data to back up how much these problems are costing us? That problem number two is probably the hardest thing to figure out. And so part of doing this investigation and this work up front involves getting help with building this business case. So ultimately, what you should be doing before you embark on any of these projects is to answer these two questions up front before you do any discovery, before you do any demos, before you talk to any reference customers, whether it's hardware or software, it really doesn't matter, and build the business case first so that you know your numbers. And get help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Any vendors that you're working with that are worth their salt are going to be able to help guide you through this process for their specific product or service. And then take those numbers, get some help either from the vendors, put it together yourself, and compile these numbers and put it together to your leadership team. So you spend the time building the business case first before you actually spend your time, your team's time, your leadership's time engaged in researching this project, and you get approval at the beginning part of the process rather than the end of the part of the process. Personally, I have found this process to be insanely effective. There are times when I've looked at a project or I've worked with a customer and we've said, hey, listen, I can't help you. I would love to, and I'm glad we went through this process up front, but I'm glad we didn't spend a bunch of time. So you're going to find out one of two things. Either this problem is worth solving, or this problem is not worth solving. And you're going to get the answer to that question out up front before you spend a bunch of time on it. So I hope this helps. Scott McKenzie, supply chain guru here. Have an awesome day today.